What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we're going to be talking about 6 players that I think are going way too late in your 2025 fantasy football drafts. Players that I think are going to be great draft day values and can be very consistent contributors for your fantasy football teams here this year. Now, with that being said, if this is your first time visiting the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you find something in the video informative or actionable today. But without wasting any more time, let's hop right into today's video and let's start talking about these values. All right, so the first player that I want to talk about today is going to be at the quarterback position. It's going to be Dak Prescott, quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, he's currently being drafted in the 10th round of those drafts. He has finished as a top 12 quarterback in every healthy season so far of his career, including a QB3 finish most recently in 2023. Now, obviously, he dealt with some injury that kept him off of the football field in 2024, but he averaged 37 attempts and 264 yards per game before that injury last year. Now, both of those are going to be in the top 5 marks for the quarterback position, and he gets an upgraded wide receiver group this year with George Pickens being added as the wide receiver too. Plus, he gets that continued scheme stability under Bryant, who was promoted from the offensive coordinator to the head coach. Now, regression from the Dallas defense could force more passing volume for the Cowboys offense in 2025. Think of it somewhat similar to the light version of what the Cincinnati Bengals offense was doing last year because of how bad their defense was. And like I said, this is a player who's going in the double-digit rounds of drafts, and you can draft him as your quarterback 2 on your team or punt the position late and still get quarterback 1 production out of Dak Prescott here in 2025. Let's move on to the next player. That's going to be James Conner, the running back for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, he's currently being drafted in the 5th round of drafts, and he was one of only 3 running backs who averaged 15 carries and 3 catches per game in 2024. He has back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons while accounting for 31% of Arizona's total offense over that span, and the Cardinals ranked 7th in rushing yards per game last year and 6th in EPA per rush last season. It feels like the discount that we're getting on James Conner is mainly because of age. It just seems like his ADP is getting lower and lower every single year because of how old he is and the risk that comes with the age, obviously being the running back age cliff, but I still think he's going to be the engine of this offense despite Arizona telling us that Trey Benson is going to be a little bit more involved this season. Now, the main reason why I like James Conner as a pick in your drafts is because the early season schedule for the Arizona Cardinals is incredible for running backs. Lots of easy matchups based off of last year's strength of schedule, and the Arizona Cardinals are favored in 5 of those 6 matchups on sportsbooks, so we are going to be expecting them to play with a lead and lean on the running game of James Conner. How about another running back? Let's talk about Isiah Pacheco of the Kansas City Chiefs. He's currently going in the 6th round of drafts, and if you've been around the channel so far this summer, you know he's one of my highest drafted players over on Underdog. Now, he handled 42% of the team's rushing attempts and targets before he was injured in 2024, which shows us that they were using him as a true workhorse in that offense. Now, Andy Reid has been publicly hyping up his offseason performances this year, confirming the confidence that he has in Isiah Pacheco as the lead running back. The Chiefs still have a top half offensive line in the NFL, and they remain one of the league's most efficient scoring teams, so I do think double-digit touchdown upside is still in the play for Isiah Pacheco, despite Kareem Hunt siphoning some of the goal line work last year. I think another reason why people are fading Isiah Pacheco is a little bit of the dynasty in the best ball community that's hyped up about rookie running back Brashard Smith, but I do think he's very unlikely to take over the early down grinder type of role and the goal line role from Isiah Pacheco. Maybe he can tack into a little bit of the receiving work, but let's be honest, you weren't drafting Isiah Pacheco as a receiver anyways. Let's talk about tight ends. David Njoku of the Cleveland Browns is definitely a value in drafts, currently being drafted in the 8th round. He averaged 7.9 targets per game, 56 yards, and 11 fantasy points per game in non-Deshaun Watson starts over the last 3 seasons. Now, only Kelsey, Kittle, and Bowers match that level of production over that course of time, so I do think he's flashing and proven as a producer when Deshaun Watson is not on the football field. Now, the good thing for David Njoku is Joe Flacco is going to be the starting quarterback to start the year. I think he flashed true upside with 3 top 2 weekly finishes in 2024, and he is likely locked in for another 100 targets, regardless of the quarterback situation here in Cleveland. He's currently discounted because of the quarterback uncertainty in this offense, and also, let's be real, probably because of the logo that is on his helmet, but I do think he's going to give you tight end 1 production, and you can still get him very cheap in drafts. Let's go back to the running back position and talk about Zach Charbonnet, running back for the Seattle Seahawks, who's currently being drafted in the 9th round of drafts. He logged 6 top 24 finishes in 2024 when Kenneth Walker was sidelined, and has had a strong passing game role with 75 receptions over the last 2 years. That's more than Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs. Now, he is clearly trusted by the Seattle staff as a plug-and-play starter when needed, and new offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak brings a very run-heavy system which should boost his stash appeal in fantasy football leagues. Now, I've mentioned it a few times so far this summer, but Kenneth Walker has been dealing with nagging foot and ankle injuries off and on through the summer. It hasn't felt like it's anything serious because he does keep returning to practice, but obviously when you have a running back banged up with the injury history of Kenneth Walker, you do want to target the handcuffs. So that said, I do think Zach Charbonnet is one of the premium handcuffs in fantasy football, and he's certainly cheap enough that you can pick him up and stash him on your bench, and he can become a weekly starter when he's called upon. And now my last player, let's go back to the wide receiver position. It's Courtland Sutton for the Denver Broncos. He is currently being drafted in the 5th round of drafts, and last year he finished as the wide receiver 13 despite being drafted outside of the top 30 wide receivers in early season ADP. Now, he is a red zone weapon on this offense. I think he has real double-digit touchdown upside and potential to grow alongside Bo Nix as Bo Nix matures as an NFL quarterback. Sutton commanded more than 25% of the team's targets last year, which is a rare role for a wide receiver in his draft range to possess, and he should have a very solid weekly floor as the clear wide receiver 1 in Denver with very minimal competition for alpha status on this roster outside of him. Now, I think he's one of the better wide receiver values because he's currently priced as a wide receiver 2, maybe even a wide receiver 3, depending on what platform you're drafting on. And I do think he still has low-end wide receiver 1 type of upside in this offense with very minimal target competition. So there you have it. That is 6 players I think are going way too cheap in fantasy football drafts. Hopefully you guys can scoop up a couple of these guys onto your fantasy football teams and hopefully use them to help you win a fantasy football championship. As always, I'm going to be here for you guys year round, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That way you don't miss any future content. Make sure if you found something today informative, entertaining, or actionable, you hit the like button as well. And make sure you go join our free Discord. We do have a free Discord linked in the description, helping you guys with your fantasy football teams 24/7, 365. I'm in there on Sundays helping you with start sits, trade questions, all that good stuff. There's a community of 550 plus people that want to talk some fantasy with you. So like I said, it's free to join. So go jump in there and talk some ball with us, and we'd love to have you as part of this community. But with that being said, I have nothing else for you guys today, so I will see you on our next episode. Until then, peace out.